Hello and welcome back to Project 380. In this video I'm going to be installing an eBay special short shifter to the Mark 1. This tutorial is only for the 5-speed Mark 1 as the 6 speeds and some of the Mark 2s are a little bit different. Some of you may remember from Japfest last year I picked up this really cool gear knob. Now the only problem with it is because it's so long there's quite a lot of throw in it. So a lot of you will add a short shifter to decrease the shifting times, but for me I'm adding the short shifter so I can have less throw in my gear stick. Because at the minute, gear changes feel a little bit sloppy. So hopefully installing the eBay special short shifter will make gear changes with this oversized knob a lot more bearable. So to begin the installation of the short shifter, we need to remove the old gear knob and remove the center console. The center console is held on with 5 screws, 2 at the front, 1 either side here and here, 1 underneath the ashtray or cup holder, and 2 in the center armrest. Then we can lift the center console out of the way and the sound insulation around the gear stick. Now we can see the gear boot. That's held on with 4 bolts, 2 at the back and 2 at the front. And there should be a white collar holding this boot onto the shifter, but my boot has seen better days, so that really needs a replacement. If you do still have your white collar on your shifter, you can simply take a pair of snips to it and cut it off. And then you can remove the 4 10mm bolts. The metal bracket at the rear can be lifted out of the way and then the boot can be lifted off. Then we can see our shifter in our turret held on with 3 10mm bolts. They can now be undone, but before you do that, grab yourself an old rag and place it close by. You'll see why that's important in a minute. Now with our old rag close by, we can grab the old shifter and pull it directly up. Now sometimes you'll have oil dripping from the shifter. This is why we're going to keep a rag close by. Now would be the perfect time to top up your turret oil. A quick look at the shifters side by side before I put the short shifter in the car. This is the old one with the old 3-bolt plate on, the old crinkle washer and the nylon bushing, and the nylon bush that goes into the turret. The new one does come with all of this, but there are some slight differences, which I'll get onto in a minute. But while these are out, we want to have a look at the differences between the short shifter and the old one. And how the short shifter works is by moving the fulcrum point. As you can see, these two are slightly different. The short shifter has a longer shaft between the fulcrum point and where it goes into the turret, compared to the old one, which is quite short. This is the part that makes it the short shifter. Because it's changing the fulcrum point, you're going to require less movement to move that gear shifter compared to the old one. But because this fulcrum point has changed, we need some extra hardware. And this is all included in the kit. As you can see, we've got our 3-bolt flange, a new crinkle washer and nylon bush, and the 2 spacers that make this short shifter all work in the standard gearbox. So let's get installing this into the car. There's just one last part of the original shifter we need to remove, and it's this nylon bushing right down here. Now we can put the first metal spacer in. That has got a cutout, which lines up with the dowel pin on the gearbox. Can slide in the top of the turret. I've found it easier to put the short shifter in at this point. The white nylon bush lines up in a hole down there in the turret. And just make sure you have this keyway pointed towards the back. Then the short shifter spacer could go on. This too has got a dowel pin in it, and that is off center. So make sure that dowel is at the bottom, closest to the turret. And then slide that onto the short shifter, lining that dowel up with the keyway in the short shifter. And then the nylon bush and the crinkle washer, slide that on. That won't quite sit right in this spacer just yet, but the 3-bolt flange will force that down into place. So this could go on next. With our 3 bolts, make sure the normal washer is against the flange and the spring washer against the head of the bolt. Make sure everything is lined up and that spring washer isn't poking up through the hole. Then you could do the 3 bolts up evenly, working your way round, and try and clamp down with equal force. and everything will line itself up. Now you don't have to do these bolts up very tight, only about 10 Newton meters. But make sure they're all nipped down, then give it a test and make sure it goes into every gear and moves nice and smoothly. That is feeling really crisp. Once you're happy with all of this, we can start putting it all back together. Starting off with the gear boot. I really should have bought a new one. And the insulation, and then the center console. Of course, the hairbands are optional. And last but not least, the gear knob. And the all-important test. That feels a lot better. It feels a lot less sloppy, and of course, a lot shorter throw. My old bushings in my old shifter must have been really worn out, because this feels a lot tighter. So that is an eBay special short shifter for the MX5 all installed. This is a really great easy mod to do. Usually you could pick these up off eBay for about £40 and the installation should take less than 15 minutes. So yes, as you've seen with my Mark II, there are better short shifters out there, but they do come with a greater price tag. But the eBay shifter is definitely worth its money. If this video helped you install your eBay special short shifter, let me know in the comments down below. And as per usual, don't forget to like and share, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.